Ilya Shapiro is a senior fellow at the Cato Institute, editor-in-chief of the Cato Supreme Court Review. Smart guy, much smarter than I am. Am I missing anything in summing up what is going on for the American people here, Mr. Shapiro?
No, I was following your analysis. I think that's right. You know, the one thing I always wonder about government shutdowns, they say all non-essential workers go home and all that. Why do they come back? We should only have people who are essential to the running of the government employed by the taxpayer.
Right. People we don't need, why are we paying you? But you're basically reaching a point in this country where there are millions of Americans who don't want a wall. They simply don't want it. And even though Senator Schumer said he did want it a few years ago, now he apparently doesn't want it. Nancy Pelosi never wanted it because her liberal base finds the wall offensive. Shouldn't everybody just say, look, I don't want the wall, I do want the wall, and let everybody know rather than have these secret agendas all over the place?
Well, look, most of the border that's actually crossable already is pretty fortified. So it's not so much a matter of spending billions and billions of dollars that we don't have to put this wall across impassable desert and rivers and mountains and stuff like that. That's kind of a red herring. I mean, it allows Trump to look strong. And that's kind of the deal that'll ultimately be made, because whatever money goes to this wall is basically like flushing it down the toilet, but makes people feel good.
Well, I disagree with you because they have a prototype that we examined in detail yesterday, and they tested it on Navy SEALs to see if the SEALs could get across it, and they could not. And
I'm not disputing.
That wall would displace.
They can make it.
Go ahead.
I'm not disputing that they can come up with a better wall than what we have now, or what have you. But most of the problem is not people sneaking across the border or climbing existing walls or fencing or anything like that. In terms of if you're concerned about illegal immigration, and I think that concern is overblown, then it's visa overstays. And for that matter, since the Great Recession, most illegal immigrants come from Asia. They fly over. They don't come across the southern border.
And they don't go back. I understand that. But you got 3,000 a day now. People being taken into custody. Federal government has nowhere to put them. You got asylum claims of about 100,000 a year, 2018 fiscal year, 67% up from the year before, because the people smugglers are saying, just ask for asylum. It takes 3 to 4 years to adjudicate it. So you have a system that's breaking down. So you say it's overblown. This illegal immigration is overblown. We take more than 1 million foreign nationals into the country every year illegally. Do you believe that there should be 10, 20 million illegal, migrants taken into the United States? Do you believe that is a good policy?
There should be orderly processing, and I agree.
Is there now? Is there orderly processing now?
Of course not. But putting up a wall, spending money on a wall, that doesn't address those kinds of.
You don't think that would discourage people from coming here from South and Central America and Mexico? They know they can't go over the wall.
Talk about the asylum claims or the caravan. We know where they are, and there is a problem with that flood and processing them, and not enough judges, not enough space to house them. Those are very legitimate issues, but the wall doesn't solve that.
But the wall keeps people from coming. Look, the people smuggling industry in Mexico is $300 million industry. People aren't going to pay these cartel members to try to get them across if they know they can't cross. And the narcotics, you know that. Tons of narcotics coming across that border.
Well, shut down the drug war and you end that kind of trade.
Well, nobody's going to shut down a drug war and legalize drugs. I know Cato's a libertarian, but come on.
States are legalizing marijuana. That is trickling. Look, you can't throw all of the problems of the nation into one bucket and say they can be fixed by physical barriers, because most illegal immigrants, like I say, are not coming through in that manner. You could spend a little bit more on drones and technological fixes, which are actually more effective, more cost effective than building miles and miles of wall.
Seems to me that $5 billion, which is not a large amount of money in the federal budget, inhibiting tens of thousands of people from trying to illegally cross. Do you know that 95% of the Border Patrol agents themselves, in a survey, said, we want the wall because we are crushed down here with people trying to sneak across the border? So the Homeland Security apparatus itself says we need relief. Now, I agree with you, overstaying visas, if you punish the people who do that by charging them with a crime that is going to put them in a very difficult position, all right, that's the way to solve the overstays. But the border is always going to be a major problem with Homeland Security unless there's a big barrier. Look, it worked in Israel, as you know. It stopped.
It's a very different situation. If you're dealing with a terrorist threat, that's a different type of problem than talking about people you don't want to come illegally.
But it's the same barrier. It's the same barrier.
Yeah,
okay?
I'm not arguing with you about the physical, literal effectiveness of the barrier. That's perfectly fine. I'm not saying, that that's fake news or anything like that. I'm saying that it's not cost efficient to spend the money on that. Maybe more border agents or immigration judges or asylum processors so we can process these people, and the ones who have fake claims, which are most of them lately, can be returned and all that.
It's not going to happen. You don't have that kind of personnel. And as you know, once you claim asylum, you're set free in the country. So look, all right, we disagree. We have a gentleman's disagreement on that. But my visa overstay solution would stop that. If it became a criminal offense to overstay your visa, as it is in most countries, that would stop that.
Sure, tracking of tourists and others who are here. I mean, at the end of the day, if people are contributing to the economy, which most even illegal immigrants generally are, then that should be a good thing. And so we really need to focus on
63% of all homes in America headed by non-citizens, both legal and illegal, receive government means-tested welfare payments. 63%. I mean, come on.
I mean, at any given level of income, immigrants use the welfare state less than native-born Americans.
It doesn't matter. They're not supposed, and the educational system, and the health system, all of these things, if you have millions and millions of people coming in here, as the Gallup poll showed yesterday, 159 million want to come here.
But illegal immigrants are not eligible for any sort of welfare payments.
No, and go to California, they're getting them.
Well, that if California as a state wants to do that, it can do, it can spend itself into bankruptcy as it's supposed to. Yeah.
And it is. But it comes back to the taxpayer.
That's California. Let's talk about the United States.
No, but federal money goes to California in the sense of education funds. It flows into California. My dollars in New York flow into California. And same thing in New York. They give means-tested welfare to illegal aliens here. There's more than 1 million of them in the New York City area. They get it. Come on, you know all this, Mr. Shapiro. You know it's not cost-effective to allow floods of people in here.
Law also says that even legal immigrants aren't eligible for anything for 5 years. So, yeah, we need to recalibrate our system to make sure that we
allow... The system's broken. It's overwhelmed.
Absolutely. We need different visa tiers so people can come here and work legally and go back as they did during the Bracero years in the 50s and 60s. There's a whole lot of reforms. You have state-based visas, experiment with federalism that way. There's a whole bunch of reforms that we can have. But the current system, I absolutely agree with you, is broken. But, most people who are... Yeah.
Can you calibrate and give me an opinion, give me anything. How many Americans want open borders, want no barriers, let them all in? Democratic Party gets votes out of it. We've seen Nevada, Arizona turn blue.
Bill, you're building a straw man. I'm not for open borders. I'm not
saying you are. But can you calibrate in your mind how many Americans would support that?
That's not popular at all.
You don't think it is?
Not many.
Because that's what the party chieftains, look, when you have a Schumer and a Pelosi sitting there going, we want border security, and then 8 years of Barack Obama, we didn't have any border security. It's the same mess now it was when Barack Obama took office.
Well, you know what? That's true. They're engaging in a cynical ploy that they think they're going to get voters. But you know what? Immigrants assimilate and adopt the political views of the communities into which they assimilate. And so that's why Hispanics in Texas vote a lot more Republican than those in California. So it's not sure at all that whatever the Democrats are trying to deal with is going to net them votes, 10, 20 years down the line.
It's not a certainty, but it is they should all lay it on the table as you have today. I thought this was a great debate, Mr. Shapiro, between you and me, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Take care.
Okay.